Welcome back to Bart's Woodshop. Bart, of course, is here. Today's project, we are going to work on a rolling pin. I haven't actually made a rolling pin before. It might sound like a simple project, but it's actually it's pretty difficult to get that evenness all the way across. So I'm going to try out my skills and see how well I do with this. I have some store-bought wood that I'm going to use for this project. I've got some ambrosia maple and some black walnut. I think they're going to make an interesting combination on there. I'm going to bring you over to the workbench and we're going to start. Okay, I've got my stocked wood here. This is my ambrosia maple. This is my walnut. So what we're going to do is we're going to basically stack them up so that so you kind of get that little bit of a pattern here in the rolling pin. So we're going to glue them up. I got some smooth sides that I've sanded smooth, and then I got some rough cut sides. Those are going to be on the outside because I want nice smooth surfaces to glue to. This one here I did sand both sides because it's going to be in the middle, and it's going to get glue on both sides. And I got the same thing here, saw cut, smooth cut. So that's how we're going to stack them up. I've got my glue here, and we're going to put a generous amount of glue. I don't want this thing coming apart. And then we're going to use my fancy wood spreading tool. This thing right here. A lot of people use a brush or some sort of roller or whatever. I'm afraid to get some glue on my finger. It peels off later once it's dry. Okay, good generous amount of glue. Covering the whole surface. I don't want to see none of these little edges. I just want glue everywhere. Alrighty. And we stack the ambrosia maple. Alright, so I decided I'm going to use a piece of this ambrosia maple for the handles. Not sure how well you could see, but I kind of penciled out a basic design of what I wanted the handle to look like. And then I took my miter saw and I cut a 45-degree angle in both sides. I'm actually going to do that a second time once I get these glued up. So the plan is I'm going to glue this in between on both sides, and then once it dries I'm going to cut a 45 in the other direction and glue them in, and it's going to create this interesting little loop design. I haven't actually done this before, but I've watched 100 YouTube videos and that's how I learn. So we're going to start by gluing this up. This piece of wood, I'm not sure what species this is. I'm not sure. I got it out of a discount bin at the wood supply store. So if anyone knows what kind of wood it is, I would love to hear it a comment. It's pretty interesting grain. I'm not sure. Someone told me it might be teak, but I'm honestly not sure. So, like I said, anyone knows, send me a comment. So let's start gluing this guy up. Alright, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to start by putting glue this section here. Get a good amount on there. Now, by the way, this piece of ambrosia maple was bought in the cheap bin as well because it's got this bark on the outside. But we're going to turn that off, so, you know, for $1 or so for this piece of wood, it's not that bad. So we're going to put this on there, and we're going to set it on the workbench. And I'm going to glue on this side. Okay. Now this is going to be hard to line up because of the angles. It's going to be difficult to clamp. I'm just going to really have to do the best I can. Hope it works out. Okay, I got my darker colored pieces in here again, and when we put it together, this is basically what it's going to look like. And like I said, once it's all set, it's going to have this interesting loop pattern going into it. It's going to be, once you see it, you'll understand it, but it's a little hard to explain at first. But it's going to be interesting. So let's get this thing glued. Okay, now we let that dry up for a couple of hours, and that's going to be our handle piece. Now, as far as our rolling piece, the larger section, it is dry, and it's looking pretty good. We're not going to do any kind of fancy knots or anything in this one. I kind of just like the two-tone straight line look. I think that's going to look good with the light colored handles with the little loops that I'm going to make with those. So we can actually put this thing on the lathe and get it roughed out. So I'll see you over there. Alright, let's turn her on. 1400 RPM. Seems to be going nicely. Now, the difficult part with a rolling pin is it really has to be straight all the way across. I can see I got a little hump here, and it's definitely going to take some working to get this thing perfectly straight. And let's hope I can do it. And it is ready for a finish. Now, being that this is going to be used on rolling dough and whatnot, I'm just going to use some boiled linseed oil to give it a little bit of a finish, because I don't want to put anything on there that's not going to be food safe. And boiled linseed oil is food safe. So let me grab my can here. I'm just going to apply it with this paper towel. Let me put a rubber glove or two on here, because that stuff takes forever to get up out of your hands. Anything oil-based will. And once I get this oil on here, you're really going to see the grain in the walnut. Now, you could use all kinds of food-safe finishes. You know, they make cutting board oil, which is a mixture of boiled linseed and some other stuff. You could really use any kind of finish that you want, as long as it is food safe. Let's give it a good generous amount. Work it into the grain. Yeah, that looks nice. This is going to be a nice piece when she's finished. Okay, so the main part of the pin is done. Let that oil finish soak in there. Get it real good. And then once it's all soaked in, we'll clean up the excess, but alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a measurement with my caliper here for the total length of this handle to the bottom of the shoulder. And I'm going to come over here to this side, and we're going to mark the same length. Okay. So now that I've got my lengths matched up, I'm going to do the same thing over here that I did over here with the parting tool. Woo! Thank God for face shields. A little bit. I put the cut it in half. I put my chuck on here, and I'm going to just hold it in place with the chuck while the other side is, the glue is drying. So back to what I was doing before we had our little snafu. all sanded down, finished. The glue is dry. I really like the way the handles came out with that interesting little design. And yeah, I think this is going to make a nice little gift. And that's the completed project. So if you like what you saw today, please hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. It's really going to help me out if you do. Appreciate you all watching. Have a good one. Till we see you again.